Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, where are we in our text this evening?
We're on 239.
239. So, again, we've been discussing this whole shift that Shankara takes us through. What is this not self? Not self is not the not self, what we've been calling the not self is in fact this strange play of Maya. How is it that consciousness, which is one without a second, which is absolute, still and changeless, with no form, no qualities, no birth, no death, seemingly within it has the entire phenomenal world lies. And then the scriptures always bring us back to the dream state to understand it. You are the God of your dream. If you understand how your dream comes about, that's a microcosm, then you will understand how all this comes about macrocosmically. And then we've talked about, well, I understand it intellectually, but why can't I experience it? And it's because of my deeply rooted conviction, my belief in the reality of the world. I need to break that down. Then I need to withdraw my reactivity from the world. All right, so will you help us out? Again, what verse are we on?
239.
239.
Jnati Jnaya Jnana Shunyam Anantam Nirvikalpakam Kevala Khandachit Matram Param Tattvam Vidur Buddhaha. Sages realize the supreme truth in which there are no distinctions, such as the knower, the knowledge, and the known, which is infinite, transcendental, and which is of the essence of knowledge absolute.
So he uses the word nirvikalpa. This is a term we need to really examine. We're going to go into it later. There are two important meanings of it. The one with which most of us are familiar is when we refer to the mind state of nirvikalpa samadhi. This is the mind state when all perturbations, vikalpas, have completely ceased. I say from the neck up, the thoughting has stopped. From the neck down in the heart, all struggle has ceased. When the mind enters into nirvikalpa, the individuality and the phenomenal world are gone. And the scriptures describe it where the distinction between knower, knowing, and known no longer is, or is merged into one. It is an experience. The mind in ignorance is held in place by vasana. Swamiji used to use the image that the ego sense is like a balloon filled with hydrogen or helium. It's held down by millions of little threads. The threads are not strong. There's just millions of them. And those are the vasanas. So the balloon stays tethered. So what is our process now? Snip, snip, snip. Whenever a personal thought of self arises, drop it. Remember, I gave you the slogan, the mantra. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. Let it go. Can we remember to do that? Maya is very powerful. Frequently, I don't even remember. There I am, ego identified, and I just go trucking along, doing battle with the world. Who's had that experience? Yeah. So try to remember. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. Now, most of you here in class have had moments. The mind is quiet enough, it's tuned up enough. Just listen to the sound of the rain and the traffic. Who hears? What hears? You see, there's nothing there. So now you have at least something real with which to work. If you can't drop your mind and come into that, well, I don't get it. Well, the rain's, my ears are hearing it, Jim. We don't go there. But if your mind is quiet enough and subtle enough, you get some of that. But then it comes back. Why does it come back, Jim? Vasana. So they keep snipping. Every single attachment without exception has to be let go of. Every thought of self, every idea that I'm identified with has to be let go. Now, you never know when it's the last attachment, the last vasana. Swamiji used to say, when that last one is snipped, what happens to the balloon? It rises, and it expands and expands and expands, and all of a sudden, wham! Then the balloon remnant falls to the earth. The space in the balloon is merged with the space everywhere. That is one understanding of Nirvikalpa. The other understanding of Nirvikalpa, we always teach both. It is where knower, knowing, and known are merged. So, the phenomenal world is known with this triple factor, knower, knowing, and known. I, Jim, through seeing, see the table. I, Jim, through hearing, hear the traffic. Go through all the five senses that way. I, through manas, mind, know feelings. I, through buddhi, intellect, know thought. But how do you know you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself that you know you are. What is the praman, the means of knowledge? I don't know. The self itself is its own means of knowledge. What is that which is known? Not as an object. But I'm not unknown. Are you you? How do you know? I don't know. I just know it. Exactly. So you are Nirvikalpa. You are the knower, you are the means of knowledge, you are that which is known, meaning they're all merged into this self-evidence of the self. So one of Shankara's famous hymns is the Nirvana Shapakam. And one of the stanzas starts, Aham Nirvikalpo, which does not mean I'm in Nirvikalpa, or I've experienced Nirvikalpa. What does it mean? I am Nirvikalpa. Without any change, silent, vast, and when the mind absorbs itself in that, oh, such bliss. Very beautiful and important point. Did I get all the pieces of that verse? Read it again for me in English.
Sages realize the supreme truth in which there are no distinctions, such as the knower, the knowledge, and the known, which is infinite, transcendental, and which is of the essence of knowledge absolute.
Yeah. All right, next verse.
Aheyam nu padeyam manovachagocharam aprameyam anadhyantam brahmapurnam ahammaha. That which can neither be thrown away nor taken up, that which lies beyond the limits of mind and speech, which is immeasurable, which is without beginning and end, which is whole and one's own self, which is of outshining glory, that is the self.
Yes. So again, these are meditation verses. We've talked about how to use them. So let's parse this one and go through each one of the ideas. The first one.
That which can neither be thrown away nor taken up.
Yes. So I can give up eating meat. I can take up meditating, every morning. I can give up my attachment to this. I can take up that practice. But you cannot give up the self, nor can you take it up. Now listen very carefully. Ignorance occurs in the mind. In reality, the self is never deluded. The self is not deluded by Maya or spiritual ignorance. Only minds are, and I can prove it to you. When are you ever not you? Who had a crappy day this week? Did you cease to exist?
Yes.
Were you aware of how crappy it was?
Yes.
Who had a good day this week? Were you aware of how good it was? Did you cease to exist? No. No matter what happens, you are always there. You are always you. This is why when someone comes to me and says, oh, 20 years ago, I dropped acid and I had a moment where I realized the self, but I've lost it. Whatever happened to you, it wasn't the self. Oh, I met this great Mahatma and the whole world dropped away and I just want to get back there. People are identified with mind states. Mind states are wonderful. But what comes that bestows freedom is when you get that you are it and you can't be touched, harmed, diminished, or added to. When are you ever not you? How could you can't lose you? Can't gain it either. It's myself. Next idea.
That which lies beyond the limits of mind and speech.
Yes. So anything we can say about it, similar enough. People will say, well, Jim, is it like this? Is it like that? I'm getting buzzings in my third eye. Is that, am I getting close? Oh, I think I'm having Kundalini. Am I going to be enlightened soon? All just ideas. And I love that saying in the second chapter of Gita. He who knows, knows it not. She who knows it not, knows it. Meaning, all of our reading and study and YouTube videos at best can inspire us to practice. But the person who can unknow, just drop the mind. It's a very real experience. You can't really describe it. Next idea.
which is immeasurable,
Yes. How big are you? How little are you? Sometimes it feels like I'm a point. Sometimes it feels like I'm vast and empty like space. In actuality, you are outside of time and space. Time and space are in you. You are without dimension. You cannot be measured. How can little old me be all of Brahman? Well, it is. Not a part of Brahman. Next idea.
which is without beginning and end,
Yes. You cannot find a beginning to meet to I. Well, yes, Jim, I began when I was born. How do you know that? Well, I don't remember before I was born. Dude, you don't remember 10 years ago. Memory or the loss of it is no test of continuity of existence. What so is you have no experience of not being. So far, you may not realize it, but when the body drops off, nothing will happen to you. Next idea.
which is whole and one's own self,
Yes. So again, it's not in parts or pieces. And the great Mahavakya, I am Atma, Brahma, this self is Brahman, not a piece of Brahman. Got all the pieces of that one?
last one, which is of outshining glory,
Yes. When the mind can recognize it, revel in it, drown itself in the self. Nothing. Right. All the adjectives that we read in various scriptures that point to God, we find in fact are true about my very self, not the ego, but the self. Next verse.
section 50, that thou art explanation.
Okay.
There's two verses together. Tattvam padabhyam vidhiyamanayo brahmatmano shodhitayor datitham shrutyatayostattva masiti samya getakattvameva pratipadyate muhu. Ekyam tayorlakshitayo na vachyo nigadyatenyonya viruddha dharmani Khadyodbhavoriva Rajbhurityayoho Kupamburashyoho Paramanumevoho. If Shruti, in her maxim that thou art, repeatedly establishes the identity of Brahman and Jiva, indicated by the term that, tat, and thou, tvam, respectively, then stripping these terms of their relative associations, their implied but not literal meanings are to be inculcated, for they are of contradictory attributes, like the sun and the glowworm, the king and the servant, the ocean and the well, Mount Meru and the atom.
So the problem that many of us have is, as I approach this spiritual practice, this tradition, and I see this Mahavakya, great utterance, great maxim, Tattvamasi, you are that, or that thou art, if you want to use old-timey language. It seems ridiculous. I'm Jim. I'm a person filled with flaws. I'm getting old. I got diseases. Memory's failing me. I'm finite. I live in Oakland. I don't know a whole lot of stuff. How can I be God? God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. Light, love, life, truth. That's what the scriptures say. And what we find in many traditions, the only thing you need to know about God is you're not it. God is other. God is to be worshipped. God is to be adored. God is that to whom we surrender. Even in the yoga tradition, Patanjali stresses Ishvara Pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. I, Jim, turn my will and my life over to God's care. Tattvamasi, that's nonsense. But the Shruti does not lie. So what we have to do is not take the literal meaning, but the implied meaning, the lakshana. So, let me give you a worldly example. So, Sound, what is your title at work?
I'm a product manager.
Product manager. And what is your title when Mahib and Lena bring up the baby?
Taiji.
Taiji, which means?
Aunt.
Yeah. And when you go home to visit your folks, what's your title?
A daughter.
Now make up your mind. Are you aunt, project manager, or daughter?
All of it.
So which is the real you? You, in fact, are not these conditioning adjuncts. You are the same person. Do you all understand what we're doing? So what we have to do with God and with the person, the jiva, is withdraw our attention from the conditioning adjuncts, the upadis. So this classic exegesis of this Mahavakya is also called the Upadesha Mahavakya. Upadesha means to instruct. All of the branches of yoga are implied in this. So we start where we are with our direct experience. You have a physical body. God has a physical body. It's called the Jagat, the creation, the phenomenal universe. You have a subtle body, Sutra Sharira, your thoughts and feelings. God has a subtle body. It's called Hiranyagarbha, the total mind. Sum total of all the thoughts and feelings that have ever been thoughted and felt, which become the impetus for all the manifestations of the creation. You have a causal body, Karana Sharira, which is your bundle of vasanas, the things that cause you think, feel, desire, act in the world. The latent impulses deep in the unconscious, the subconscious. God has a causal body, the total vasana. The other word for this is Ishvara. What does Ishvara mean?
One who wishes.
Yes, or we usually translate it as the Lord, God, the Creator God, Prajapati, Brahma. So within this Prajapati, this Ishvara, is the potentiality of everything. Now, for you as an individual, who is the knower of the physical body, the subtle body, and even the knower of the vasanas, which I see in deep sleep? I am witnessing consciousness. And what is the ground of being out of which Prajapati has sprung? We had that in our Prashna Upanishad in the very first question. We call that Brahman. What is the nature of Brahman? Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness. Now that witnessing consciousness you experience as I, and that Brahman which is the ground of being of the entire phenomenal universe. They are the same thing. That's the deeper meaning of tatvamasi. Now, let's see how Shankara breaks it down. Next verse.
तयोर्विरोधो यमुपाधिकल्पितो न वास्तव कश्चिदुपाधिरेषः ईशस्य माया महदादिकारणं जीवस्य कार्यं शृणु पञ्चकोशम्. The difference between them is only created by superimposition and is not real. The conditioning in the case of Ishvara is Maya or Mahat, etc. And listen, the conditionings in the case of the Jiva are the 5 sheets.
Yes. So because of the inherent Maya Shakti, the power latent or inherent in Brahman, the whole phenomenal world gets superimposed. And for the individual, because of mini Maya, meaning my personal ignorance, first comes Jiva Bhavana, I think I'm a person. Then I project and identify with the upadhis, the 5 sheets. Next verse.
एतावुपाधि परजीवयोस्तयोः सम्यं निरासे न परो न जीवः राज्यं नरेन्द्रस्य भटस्य खेटक स्तयो रपोहे न भटो न राजा. These two are superimpositions of Ishvara and Jiva, but when they are completely eliminated, there is neither Ishvara nor Jiva. When the kingdom of the king and the shield of the soldier are taken away, there can be neither a king nor a soldier.
So in old-timey days, the king was the commander-in-chief of the army. So when he was in his capital, he would wear his turban or his crown and have his jeweled robes and all that sort of stuff. But if his enemies attacked, all that stuff went, in the closet. On went his armor, and out came his sword and shield. Same dude. So also, withdrawing our attention and identification from the 5 koshas and seeing the fundamental dreamlike nature of the phenomenal world, we come to at least intellectually grasp that the self in me is Brahman. How do I come to directly experience it? Abhyasa vairagya, practice and detachment. Both. Now, many of us get to a point where we're kind of stuck in this experience. Okay, Jim, I can see that I'm the witness of the body, the feelings, the thoughts. And I can get that, like there's me, that's the knower of everything, and I can't see any qualities in me, but I feel like it's still an individual me. I don't have the connection of me with Brahman. Who understands what I'm talking about? Why? There's still attachment and identification. It's not to be done with hours and hours of meditation. It's not to be done by reading a ton of books. Sannyasena, by means of intense renunciation. Now we're back to Nirvikalpa again. When all the vasanas have been exhausted, the mind thunders to a stop. It is absolutely self-validating. If your mind says, is this it? You will know. And if you have doubts, probably don't know it yet. So keep renouncing, keep tuning up the mind. Next verse.
अथात आदेश इति श्रुति स्वयं निषेधति ब्रह्मणि कल्पितं द्वयम् श्रुति प्रमाणानुगृहीत बोधा तयोर्निरास करणीय एव. Now is the injunction, etc. In these words, the scriptures reject the imagined duality in Brahman. Supported by the authority of the scriptures, one must certainly eliminate these two superimpositions by means of direct realization.
Yes. So this practice that's suggested by Shankara has its authority in, now is the injunction, is it what, Tattvamasi or Neti Neti?
Neti neti.
Yeah, Neti Neti. So that's the injunction. What does that mean? Na iti, not this. We never say just neti, and we never say neti, neti, neti 3 times. It's always twice. Now is the injunction, not this, not this. Meaning, I am not the equipment, body, mind, intellect, vasanas, etc., ego. And God is not the phenomenal world. No vision, no being, no message, no angel. If you can see it, that isn't it. Drop it. This world of name and form is like a hologram. It's a movie. Brahma Satyam, Jaganitya. Brahman alone is real. The names and forms are Mithya. This is the practice. Not only with the individuality, but also with the phenomenon. Now, many gurus will poke at us. Swamiji used to do this a lot in camps. If he saw that you were attached or identified with something, he just keep poking at you until you quit reacting, till we dropped it. So we learn pretty quickly on. Be empty around Swamiji or suffer the consequences. Keep the mind tuned up. Let everything just pass through. No attachment, no aversion. But life is the greatest guru for this. You've all heard me say this so many times. Who got upset this week? Tell me this is the first time. Now, your life, you've stepped on the path. It's too late. You can't get off. It's like you're skydiving. I've changed my mind. You can't get back in the airplane. And Guru in the form of the world will continue to show up and bring to us exactly the circumstances where we have attachment and identification. Now, we have all eternity to let go of it, but it will keep coming around until we let it go. You can run, but you cannot hide. Very simple.
So the sign of letting it go is like whatever happens doesn't rattle you. You don't lose your.
Today, yeah. You have samadrishta, and you do not lose apprehension of yourself as Brahman. If you're on the contrary thinking, oh, I'm doing so well as a yogi, I'm really cool in the face of all these challenges. I think, oh, man, I'm a hot lady, you know. If those kinds of thoughts are coming, you're just still a fool. Does that make sense? Yeah. No personal sense of self is real. Drop everything, drop everything.
So more like specifically drop everything is really dropping the thought and going back to remembering who you are.
Yes, and then do your duty. I think I may have told other classes this story. It's an important one. This is what I call sour grapes or phony renunciation. Very early on in my studies as a singer, I was plagued by crippling performance anxiety, stage fright. And this was about 1970, long before I met Swamiji. I was living in San Diego, and there was this Italian restaurant where young singers would come and they'd sing their opera arias. They used to have like Max's Opera Cafe and other, there were opera bars in San Francisco in the old timey days. I don't think there are anymore. But anyway, so I got up and I remember, I think it was Amarili Mia Bella, a little Italian art song. And I was so scared and so nervous, I couldn't breathe. I got off the stage and I sat down, had a big glass of red wine. And I said, I'm just going to quit singing. This is too painful. Now, I wasn't a yogi yet, but I just couldn't stand the suffering. Now, that was phony renunciation because I still had the desire to sing. Did not leave me. I basically kept singing until I got too old and the chops wouldn't work too well anymore. Wore it out. But real renunciation was get up there and sing and let go of the I, me, mine stuff. Put your mind on the music, Jim. Your mind is on the music. That's where it belongs, not on, oh my God, what are they going to think of me? I'm so frightened. I'm going to be terrible. Important lesson. Important lesson. So we don't cease the activity. We continue with the activity. Depends on the activity. I mean, if you're, for example, a sexual compulsive, you might want to quit that activity or at least mellow it out. But those are usually not the big ones. The big ones are usually relational. Any thoughts on this, about this distinction between phony renunciation and real renunciation? And Krishna addresses it in Gita. He says, the person who gets rid of the objects of desire but allows the desire to remain behind is verily a hypocrite. But their desire leaves them upon seeing the Supreme. Very clear. Is that useful?
Jim, one thing I'm struggling with a little bit is, so I can see it when it's a desire for myself, and I think I can see the connection where what I'm about to say. But it's desire when you're helping others, and that goes wrong. Or so, for example, there's a house that I've been looking to help get closed for 6 years now. We were there. Licensing took the guy's license, said you have 3 months to sell it to somebody else. And bad things happen in this house. He's selling it to his son, who has been the manager of the house, who is keeping the same. It's like the name's going to change, the license is going to change, but nothing is going to change for the people who live in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so frustrated by that today that I don't know how to step back and let that. I don't know how to let that go, because I know bad things are happening to people. So when I go into my duty is to protect or to advocate for people or to help their lives be better. But I'm just stuck in the fact that I don't know that I can't. I don't want to say I failed, but I just don't understand how I'm still at this point.
Well, it's very difficult to be in a profession where your job is to help people without getting emotionally attached to the outcome. Now, let me give you another worldly example. In the medical profession, and Mark, you correct me if I'm wrong, but by and large, surgeons do not operate on their own family members. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, it is.
Why?
Because they're emotionally connected to the outcome or the person. They can't can't see clearly what to do.
But that doesn't mean the surgeon doesn't care about the patient. Of course, they want the patient to get well. Of course, they want the operation to be successful. But they have no clarity if they're upset. That's the principle. Now, let me just share with you stuff I've seen about myself. I must be a really good person if I'm upset at the suffering of others. That's my ego. This says how good I am if I suffer with people. But the truth is, the more agitated my mind, the less efficient I am. So I can only give you my mantra with it. Jim, be solution oriented. And I had a student many, many years ago. His name was Rick Hilly. who was a contractor. He did interiors of skyscrapers in San Francisco. And he dealt a lot with contractors, you know, carpenters, plumbers, things like that, many of whom were wackadoodle. And he learned that in a business communication, it's inappropriate to ever express feelings. There's no good outcome with it, even if you're feeling it. You deal with facts, you hold people accountable, and you be solution oriented. So the question I would ask you in a very detached way, is there a solution? In other words, you have, what would you call it? You have an opposing army, like Krishna on the battlefield, this fellow and his son. And they have their particular viewpoint, they have their particular values, which are probably to make money and not necessarily care deeply about these clients. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you are the opposing general. You have a different agenda, different values. You really don't care whether or not they make money. What you want to do is provide care for these clients. Now, the question is there a solution? And getting upset is not a solution. Worry is not a solution. Hand wringing is not a solution. Getting on Facebook and being a clickivist, I just love that word, is not a solution. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm not smart enough. But you've been in this work a long time. And a quiet mind is the most powerful mind. A quiet mind gives you access to the intuition. So back to our Tattvamasi, we didn't go deeply into this old Hiranyagarbha, the total mind. In that total mind is the solution to all problems. In the West, we call it developing the intuitive faculty. I don't know. But is this useful?
Yes.
But what we need to do is make sure we haven't dressed up our egoism in the clothing of righteous caring or righteous indignation, or I have a right to be upset because they're such terrible people and there's so much suffering. And for me, gee, aren't I a holy person? They might give me a halo pretty soon because I care so much. And that ego state is not particularly useful.
A lot of it is I thought I was at the solution part, thought we were there. It was kind of a win-win for everybody, and then it just all tanked. But we're just back looking for another solution.
So you'll find another solution. And maybe you need to push a little harder. Maybe you need to, I don't know what you need to do.
I don't need it yet, but I will.
But remember what Arjun's problem was in the first chapter of the Gita. I can't do battle with the Kauravas. They're my cousins. Why, think of all the suffering that's going to happen. Not only that, my grandfather's in that army and my archery teacher. I'm going to go off to the forest and meditate. He really says that. Anybody remember what Krishna says to him at that point? Don't be Clive. It's a stronger word than wimp.
Wuss.
Even stronger.
Pussy.
Yeah. Which really poked him at that point. You could just see him turning red. Don't you know who I am? Poke. Poke. Look at that. But what does Arjun have to do? He knows what his duty is. And he knows the whole Gita is about this. Act in the world according to our Swadharma, what our duty is, in a way that's effective. See, one of the things Krishna just thunders in Gita, this knowledge makes us powerful, effective people in the world. It's how to be really successful. We have the greatest chance of success in the world, real success. I don't mean, look at me, I have gold-plated toilets. Doesn't mean anything like that. I mean, I've set goals in my life that I want to do, I want to accomplish great things. I have a better chance of success if I do it from the standpoint of a yogi. Excellent question. And by the way, simple but not easy. It is a practice. That's something in Gita, it's a literary device. How long does it take to chant all 18 verses? Hour and a half, maybe? It's not very long. Few of us go from Arjuna grief to realization in an hour and a half. A lifetime. One more?
Or more.
All right. Very, very good stuff. Okay, next verse.
Nedam 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 kalpitam vanam satyam raju drishtav yalavaccha itham drishyam sadhuyukta vyapodhya Jnaya paschadeka bhavastayoryaha. Neither this gross nor this subtle, like the snake seen in the rope, and like dreams are not real, being products of the imagination. By a perfect elimination of the objective world by reasoning, one must realize the oneness underlying the Jiva and the Ishvara.
Yes. So, you can look, for example, at these landlords, people who own the house. There's a statement from Hebrew scripture, which I love. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Or to frame it in the terms of yoga, karma is inevitable. What they have put out will come back to them in God's time. Now, in terms of the clients, this is nothing you want to say to other people, Mike. We do not get what we want in this world. We don't even get what we need in this world. We get the inevitable results of this complex, many-layered, and very old impulse of force of our past actions. Nothing in God's universe happens by accident. And all these people who are suffering, the self in them is okay. They may not intellectually know it. They may not emotionally feel it. The fact is, it's all going to work out. They're okay. And that does not mean we don't work very hard to make a difference in the world. But it helps us let go of this sense that I'm playing God. If I don't save them, they fall into the abyss. Amen. I don't know what that had to do with the verse. Read the verse in English for me.
It's good for me though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Neither this nor this, like the snake seen in the rope and like dreams, are not real, being products of the imagination. By a perfect elimination of the objective world by reasoning, one must realize the oneness underlying the Jiva and Ishvara.
Yes. So I need to remember that everything in this world of name and form is Leela. It's the play of the infinite. And unlike the Christians, who have a notion that God's in charge of the universe, but obviously he's stumbling a bit because there's this dude called the devil who's making everybody suffer and stuff like that. So we've got a greater God and a lesser God, and God is only the good stuff, and the bad stuff is the devil. And, you know, that's not the view of yoga. Yoga says it's all God. Best way to understand it, you are the author of a beautiful, pleasant dream and the author of a nightmare. Now, which is more real, the pleasant dream or the nightmare? Neither. So don't have the kind of viewpoint, only the good dreams are real. Bad dreams are not real. I want to get rid of those bad dreams. It won't work. You either see the fundamental unreality of the dreamlike nature of the world, or you don't. Now, for the jiva, the individuality, our perception of this world is to a tremendous degree colored by the quality of our own sankalpa. So one person can look around this world and say, it's a terrible world, we're doomed, we're doomed. Evil is everywhere, violence, corruption, Trump. And someone else can deeply have the experience. I live, I move, and I have my being in being. And I tell you, the world is not solid. the world is incredibly plastic. How does it come about? Sankalpena, by means of imagination. Ramana Maharshi and Saint Francis, wild animals would come to them. I have a friend who gets in fights on the bus all the time. I joke with people, it happened again today. Sitting on the bus, this person says, "Hello, Santa." Oh, 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 I'm Santa. And we just start talking, and the conversation shifts into God talk. You know, it was a wonderful conversation, a lot of silliness. Those things happen to me all the time. I'm a little goofy, that's probably why. But I don't experience hostility on the bus. I ride the bus almost every day. I'm in Oakland. So we have a lot more capacity to, shall we say, shape the dream. Doesn't always have to be a nightmare. All right, it's 9 o'clock. What verse are we on for next week?
247.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.